Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this episode, I will show you how to use the if function with combining it with other functions such like or function and and function. Okay, to cope with more complicated scenarios for the logical test. Okay, let's start from our raw data. Okay, let's see. Okay. Some if we want to give the assessment on the performance of our movies, okay, so some we probably use the more indicators. For example, we use the revenue of the movie. At the same time, we also use the nominations for award competition at the same time. So we need to use two indicators. How to cope with that logic test? Then? Okay, let's start from that. We call it performance assessment. Okay, if okay, still from if because we have to use the two functions together for the as the indicators. Then we need and function. We need the both. Okay, and the first is revenue. Revenue. If the revenue is bigger than 100 million, okay, okay. At the same time, the nomination more than three times, okay, three times. Because the end function is finished here, we just put the two indicators, okay, we need a bracket. If that happen, we call it high performance, okay? We call it high. Otherwise, we call it normal. Okay. Let's do the sense check. High performance means two indicators meet at the same time. The first one is revenue, okay? We find that every figures more than 100 million. That's no problem. At the same time, we also find that the nominations for the award is more than three times. That's for sure. Okay, that means we use the two indicators: revenue bigger than 100 million and nominations bigger than more than three times as the indicators combined together by the end function, then to slice the data. Okay, we can do the more practice for this function. Okay, sometimes we find that the winter is the best season for the movies, and because of the approaching of Christmas and the New Year, so we need to gauge the winner the movies. If the movie is if the running time of the movie is longer than 120 minutes, that 2 hours, at the same time the movie just released in the December, then we call it expected. Otherwise, that's called not expected. Okay, that's we call it long films in long films in winter. Okay, that's for sure. If the movies and we need two indicators. One is the movie's run length, the length or runtime of the movie is longer than 120 minutes. At the same time, the release date of the movie always in December, because we just have the data of the date. So we have to use the month function to convert the date data to the month data. Okay, release date. Okay, because month function is already finished here, we need to put the bracket. Then the month equals as the 12. And also because the end function is already finished here, so we need to put another bracket. So, okay, we call it expected. Okay, otherwise it's not expected. Okay, we still can use the Shift plus Enter to slice the code. Okay, be easier to understand. Okay, if the data meets the requirements, the first is if the length of the movie longer than 120 minutes, 2 hours. At the same time, the release date converted to the month is equal as the 12, that means December. That means the data can meet our expectation, otherwise just not expected. Let's do the sense check. Clear. Okay, expected. That means the data always in the December. Okay, no problem. At the same time, should be longer than 120 minutes. Okay, figures the smallest one to the biggest. Okay, that's also no problem. And let's do a little bit further to combine the more indicators. Okay, if we want to use the 3, 4, 5, even 6 indicators to do the logic test, how can we combine it together? We can't use the AND anymore because AND function is just can combine the two indicators together. For this kind of multiple conditional situation, we have to use the emulate. Okay, for example, if we want to do the performance analysis, okay, for the movies, then we first indicator still the revenue. Okay, if the revenue bigger than, okay, at the same time we also need the nominations big more than 3 times. We have to use the to emulate, okay, to as the link. Yeah, emulate to link the different texts or indicators by to emulate the nominations. It's the big than 3 times. At the same time, we also use another emulate indicators. We call it Oscar wins, award wins, more than equal or more than 1 time. Okay, because the indicators finished here, we use another one. Okay, we call it a higher performance. Okay, otherwise we call it a normal. Okay, let's check on the high performance. Okay, high performance, 3 indicators. One is the revenue, more than 100 million. Nominations, 13 times, and award wins 5 times. Okay, that's for sure. Okay, for the next part of this episode is the or function. That means if we want to choose the one indicator or another indicator to do the logical test, we have to use the or function. Okay, let's start from the simple case. If the movie, okay, if the movie is the category is the awful, we have the awful. Okay, we have the movie categories called awful. If it is awful, or the movie is so-called producer by the Michael Bay, then we do not recommend it. We do not recommend the movie and just avoid it. Okay, let's try recommendation of the movie. Okay, if the movie is A indicator or B indicator, how to do it? Okay, so we need to or function. Okay, if that is a category, if that category equals, if that category equals as the awful, or that the producer equals as Michael Bayer, Michael, Michael Bayer, Bayer, sorry, Michael Bayer. If the one of the two indicators can be made, then we will avoid the movie. Okay. Otherwise, we will watch the movie. Okay. Let's do sense check. Okay. Avoid. If we, why do we avoid the movie? The first is the producer is the Michael Bayer. Okay, we find the Michael Bayer. If the producer is not the Michael Bayer, why still avoid? Because awful. If awful or Michael Bayer as the producer, then we just avoid to watch the film. Otherwise, we can watch the movie. Okay, that's no problem. Let's do a little bit more practice. Some of the movies are produced in Australia and in the 2000s. And how can we slice the data? Okay, the Australia all 2000 movie. Okay, in the 2000 years, 2000. If the movie is or if the movie the nation is equals as Australia, or the release date is in 2000, the specific year, because the release date is the data for the date, so we have to convert it from the date to the year. Okay, convert that. Because year function is already finished here, so we need to put the bracket if that equals 2000. And all function already finished here. We put another one. Okay, then that means meet our expectation. Expected. Not expected. Okay, that means if the movie is produced in Australia, let's check the data in the nation. Okay, that's for sure. In Australia, we pick up as expected. If it is not in Australia, why do we still pick up? Because the movies produced in the 2000s, okay, meets one of the two indicators. Okay, that's for sure. And the last part, we will the same problem. if we need to do logical test by the 3, 5, 3, 4, 5, even more indicators, how can we link that for one of the multiple indicators? Then in this kind of scenario, we have to use the so-called double vertical bar. Okay. Vertical bar, the key of vertical bar is near your shift key. So we will use that very frequently in the future. Okay, let's move to the last part of this session. Okay, if we want to use the multiple indicators to do the logical test, okay, let's have a look on that. Okay, recommendations. Recommendation 2. Okay. Okay. If we just suppose that if the movie category belongs to the awful, okay, movies category is equals as the awful, AWFUL, and or the producer is the Michael Bay, okay, but we have the multiple indicators, so we can't use the or function anymore. Or function is just the full 2 indicators, so we have to use the shift plus the vertical bar, okay. If the producer equals as a Michael Bay, MICHAEL, Bayer, Michael Bayer, sorry, Michael Bayer, and shift plus vertical, okay. If the movie's the nation equals as Japan, if the 3 indicators can be made by the one of the 3 indicators, then we avoid to watch the movie, okay. We call it avoid. Otherwise, we will watch the movie, okay. Let's have a look on the result for sense check, okay. Avoid. From the category, if the movie is awful, we avoid, that's no problem. If the other kinds of categories of the movie, why should we still avoid that? Because there's a lot of movies from the Japan, okay, but some from USA. Why from the USA we still watch it? That should be produced by Michael Bay. That's no problem. If the Michael Bay or the Japan, all that movie is from the awful category, so we just avoid to watch that. That's no problem. Okay, that's all for this session. Thank you very much for your time. Welcome back for the next session a little bit late. Thank you.